Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fully Managed podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you in your business journeys. I'm your host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's partnership coordinator. I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Jonathan Ames from Ames Creative. Hi, Jonathan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Daniela.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm very happy to have you today on the show. Now, to get started and kind of break the ice a little bit, can you tell us about yourself, about what you do, what you're all about for everybody watching that is not familiar with you or what you do?
Yeah. So I got my start in advertising a long time ago and then moved into marketing. But really, the essence of what I do is I create warm conversations with companies' ideal customers or partners.
That's a very interesting answer because I think like when I was looking into your agency and everything that you were doing, I was thinking like you were uh I work with a lot of small business type of agencies who work with small businesses. So I was kind of
Mhm.
like going into it expecting almost a similar type of outlook, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think like with you, I noticed that like you're the type of agency that's also been around for a while. So you're a little bit more well versed and very experienced in the marketing world, right?
Yeah, I got my start working in house. So I really understand my clients and a lot of the things that they're going through, the problems in generating leads with, really high value clients are things I experienced as a marketing director. So I totally understand that it's easy for us to connect that way.
Yeah. And actually today's topic, me and my co-host Shannon, we were talking about this topic on Friday because we do like a weekly live every Friday, where sometimes we have guests over, sometimes it's just
Mhm.
us. And we talk about like cool marketing stuff. And we were talking about being host of a podcast.
Mhm.
And today's topic is actually about podcasting too. So I was very interested because I think me and Shannon, we obviously we started this podcast last year, and we've learned a lot within that time frame. But I feel like it's very interesting talking to someone like you who has been in this industry for such a long time and has sort of like discovered podcasting. I don't know. I feel like podcasting as a marketing resource and like as a sales funnel and like all of the things that you can repurposing it as content, all the things that you can do is a pretty new thing, but
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if
No,
that's
you're
something
right.
that's been around for a long time.
Well, podcasts have been around for a long time. You're right. Marketers are newer to catching up on what podcasts can do for them. And I think most marketers, when they start a podcast, because they don't have a whole lot of experience with it, and there's really not any learning that you get from, say, your college career about podcasting, they tend to make the same mistakes that I made at the beginning. And if you can make it past those beginning mistakes, you start realizing the multifaceted power of a podcast, especially for B2B. I mean, there's some amazing B2C podcasts out there, but it is incredibly competitive. There's so many different podcasts. There's a lot more room right now in the B2B space. And so for marketers, it really is a great opportunity now to be able to jump into that and really create a unique value because in the world right now, what have we heard for the last 2 years all the time? It's constantly AI and, machine efficiencies. Well, podcasts are uniquely human and people
Yeah.
really crave those human conversations.
It's true, and I feel like I mean, we were just talking about it before we went live or we started recording, but I mean, podcasting really helps you sort of connect with so many people. And I feel like as for me as a host, I feel like I connect with the people that I have as guests, but
Mhm.
I also can't help but feel like the listener can also just get so much out of like all of these different people that are coming into the podcast and
Mhm.
sharing their stories and sharing their knowledge. And, like sometimes a lot of people tend to have like similar ideas or similar opinions or similar
Mhm.
kind of takes. And
Mhm.
then sometimes it's totally different. And then you're just like, wow, that's like such a new perspective that I hadn't heard in such a long time, right?
Absolutely. I love that part. Really, podcasts create value for everyone. They create value for the guest first because you're putting that guest out there, letting them talk about things they're passionate about, that they're really subject matter experts about. And that basically is free publicity for them to get that out there. Also, you're providing value for the listeners. Like you said, just I love to listen to podcasts all the time. I learn new ideas from people with a different perspective and different experience set. And then for the brands as well that do them, there's a lot of value that's there. And if you know how to unpack that, it's really, really powerful.
Um, oh, hello.
Oh, are you losing connection?
Yeah, I was gonna go check my internet. Can you give me a second?
Sure
Because I'm
thing.
not sure if that's my problem.
No problem.
Okay, it seems to be okay. So I don't know. I guess we just lost connection for a little bit.
Yeah. I know I use something, a program similar to this. I think this is Vidyard, but basically it caches on the local machine so that if that happens, it still will just upload later, which is nice. Probably this one
Oh,
has a
okay.
similar feature. Yeah.
If not, I'll just have like the editing team delete this bit, so it's fine.
Yeah. No worries.
It's
That's the beauty of
it's
podcast.
pre-recorded. Yeah, it's pre-recorded, so it's all good. But where let's just pick up where we left off.
Mhm.
I think you were talking, and I don't remember where we were.
Yeah. We're just talking about the value that podcasts provide to the
Okay.
guest, to the listeners, as well as to the brand that sponsors them.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question, and then we pick up from right
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jonathan, can you tell me about your experience with podcasts? How did you come about to sort of finding out that they were so valuable for marketers?
Yeah. So back in 2019, I was at a small software company as a marketing director there. And we were looking at ways to connect with logistics leaders and IT leaders and CEOs who are not very interested in responding to ads or cold outreach. And so we thought, all right, maybe there's a way we can talk with our prospective market through podcasts. And so that was the reason why we started with it. And the thing when I started it out, I really didn't realize that the most interesting content is when you bring on guests. So I tried to kind of bring on our internal people and talk about our product. Those kind of podcasts don't do as well. People want real life experiences from people. And as a content creator, you simply cannot create amazing content every week. It just gets overwhelming and exhausting. So, really, I learned to go out and let the guests be the star of the show. And then the final thing is, after a couple of podcasts, I found ways to outsource the production work. As a podcast producer, it's a lot of work to do a podcast, trying to get invitations, schedule
Yeah.
everything, keep communications, make sure you do the editing, the promotion. And so we went with an agency that we outsourced all of that podcast production to, and it was so much better, so much better. Even if you can do it all in-house, there's at least 5 different skills that you need to make a great podcast, and no one person is going to have all of those skills. But when you can get specialists to work with those things, you'll have better
That's
results.
really cool. No, and I think like a lot of people don't realize that when you're starting to like when you're starting a podcast, whether it's like for a like us when it's like for a marketing purposes for sort of we use it as part of our sales not knowledge base
Mhm.
sorry as part of our knowledge base like all these things that we're talking about. um I think people don't really talk about how it's actually a sales strategy that you need to have in order to get people on the show.
Yes.
I don't mean that in the sense that like it's like a sales funnel per se, because it can be for some people. They might be trying to use it for lead generation, but you also have to figure out a way to convince people to be on your podcast. And it's a very sales sort of position, right? And
Yes.
and and like for example, for us, like we were on the marketing team, and while sales and marketing do go hand in hand, it's very different than actually being the salesperson and trying to convince someone to like do what you want them to do, right?
Yes.
And for us, it was like a learning curve of trying to like ask people, like especially at the beginning stages when
Mhm.
people don't have a reason to want to be on your podcast,
Right.
right?
Yes. No, that's always a challenge. That's one of the things that when we worked with the agency, they helped us navigate some of those initial challenges when you're starting out a new podcast. Really, it's good if you bring on some friendly people. And usually you can do that through customers or partners, or maybe even somebody internally on your staff for your first couple of episodes to get something rolling. And like you said, that's how you sell it. And it really is a process of selling the value of coming on to a guest and saying, hey, this is why you're going to love it. This is why it's going to help you. And, once they see the value of that, then yes, they will come on. But if you don't have someone who's good at selling that, then it is harder.
Yeah, it is harder. And I think like, for example, like for us, it was also learning how to have stuff ready because like people were, I think every guest that you have on has a different approach to
Mhm.
how they're going to do the podcast. Everyone has a way of like, I have people who are like, let's just like talk. I don't care what the topic is.
Mhm.
I'm good. And then I have people who prefer to prepare. I have
Yeah.
people who are very strict about topics. I've had people who are like, I don't want to talk about this. Do not ask me about this. And then there's people who are like, ask me only these questions. I have people who are very specific with time frames,
Yes.
who are like, yeah, you have to stay within this 20-minute window. And then after that, you have to end it. Like all of these sort of idiosyncrasies
Mhm.
that you sort of have to learn to navigate when you start to have guests, I think is very, like a very, for at least for me, it was a big learning
Yeah.
experience.
Well, you're really brave. I mean, most people in a marketing capacity don't feel comfortable, A, being in front of a camera, and B, interviewing people. That's kind of a special skill set there that you have. But one of the issues that you run into with people is you have to make them feel comfortable in a podcast so that really their best material will come out. And some people are not, as guests, comfortable in front of a camera. And so, really, your job as a host to help them feel comfortable,
Yeah.
to encourage them, to call out the good stuff that they're sharing so they do more of that. And so that's another challenge with podcasts is a lot of times the people who are assigned the role of being the host aren't necessarily good at those things.
Yeah,
And it's
I
a real
know.
challenge.
No, like I honestly, I don't know. I think it's a learning process. I think I've learned throughout time how to be a host. Like me and my co-host, we were talking about how like I was like, dude, I sometimes feel like I yap too much. Like I should probably shut up. I had to learn how to like stop talking because I would get nervous and like you said, like you have to make the other person comfortable. And if your energy is like all over the place, they're
Mhm.
gonna sort of absorb that. They're gonna be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, this girl's nervous.
Mhm. Or if you're too quiet, that can be really tough for them because then they have to do all the heavy lifting of coming up with the next thing to say.
Yeah, they have to, like, figure out what am I gonna do? Like, this girl's not talking, and I think
Mhm.
what is really very true about a podcast is that sometimes you're getting on a camera and talking to someone that you frankly do not know that well.
Mhm.
It's very easy to have a really nice conversation with your friend, with your
Mhm.
family member, with someone that you're comfortable with because you already know that person, the topics
Yeah.
that they're gonna talk about, you know what they're good at, it's like it's easy because it's them, but when if it's a person when it's a person that you don't know, it can be a little bit harder to sort of keep a conversation going, and a podcast is all about a constant conversation, so you cannot have awkward silences.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you did a great job of that at the beginning of the podcast, just kind of talking together, kind of getting to know a little bit about me. You've done a little research. And that's really the key when you're a podcast host is to do that work up front to make sure that the person feels comfortable and that they can do their best job of providing content.
Thank you. To everybody listening, come on my podcast. You hear that? I'm great. Have a great host.
Absolutely. You'll enjoy it. It'll be great.
No, you're a great guest. I think like and I think like what happens when you will have sort of different kinds of guests is that you learn to adjust the energy
Mhm.
to what that person is like.
Mhm.
So I've had like I've also had sort of more introverted guests who are like, listen, like
Mhm.
I'm going to do this, but I'm not a talkative person. I'm not the type of person that goes on camera, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
don't you worry. Like if you go quiet, I will start yapping. Yeah, that's usually what I tell them, like, "Don't worry," like, and I also learned to prepare other strategies, like, outside of questions, I
Mhm.
think discussions are really good, and I think that also things like I started to prepare games,
Mm.
that were not necessarily related to obviously, the podcast is about marketing and all the things that you can do with it,
Mhm.
but I think sometimes when you sort of make the guests feel comfortable with other things that are not just
Mhm.
related to the job, they can start to loosen up a little bit and you can find a connection with them outside of just like talking about work.
Yes, absolutely. And for those introverts, they'll really appreciate when you work to help them come out of their shell because all of them have an interesting story. That's the amazing thing is every person you talk to has things to share, has things that you
Yeah.
can learn from. It's just a matter of helping them feel comfortable so it comes out.
And they can be very like they're obviously very smart if they're on the podcast. You know, I don't invite anybody, so it's like they're there for a reason. There's a
Mhm.
lot, obviously, a lot to learn from them. Now, I wanted to ask you, what do you think are common mistakes that people are making when they're starting podcasts that are probably not helping them succeed or, get what they want to get out of the
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah. One of the things that I've looked back over is on my previous work, what are the things I would do differently? And these are things I've learned from that I think can help you as well. So I'm going to give a list of these. I'd say from a strategic level, first of all, be a little more focused in your target. Most of the podcasts out there can get a little too general. And so it's really hard to find your tribe of people who really want to listen and really want to come on as guests. So be more focused is the number one mistake I see. And really easy to fix that. Just go in more narrow. Second, you want to have guest focused content rather than trying to produce it all yourself. Guest focus. Let each guest bring in their unique experiences. Also, try to get more use out of the content. I mean, podcast content really is, especially if it's like this, where you have video along with audio, can be repurposed into blogs. It can be used for SEO. It can be repurposed for social media clips. I mean, you can use this for email campaigns. Uh, that's really important. Use that content to the maximum, and that will help you get more value out of it. And then synergize with other marketing channels. So, look, you can use podcasts to promote your events. You can synergize by taking your best podcast clips and using them for paid campaigns as hooks to get people in. You can use them for partnerships to help announce that and strengthen your outreach there. And you can even use it in conjunction with PR. So synergize with those other marketing channels. So those are the four strategic things I would say. And then from a tactical standpoint, don't try to do it yourself. Find some specialists out there who can help you. I mean, I'll give you an example. A lot of times, because the tools are out there, people think, oh, I'll just get this software tool. I can give this job to so and so and let them do it. Not always the best results for that. I've managed marketing teams, and just because we give them Canva doesn't make them a graphic designer. And they know that and they get frustrated. That's one of
Yeah,
the
they'll
reasons why
give
we
you
like to
something.
yeah, that's why we liked working with Penji. At my previous role, we worked with Penji for about a year, and it was great. The others on my marketing team could go in and ask for help, and we got real specialists to help with that. So don't DIY it. Get help. You will be happier with the results. Another thing I learned: boost your
Yeah,
paid
Penji,
listenership.
shameless
Oh, yeah,
plug.
yeah. But hey, you guys did a good job for us, so I'm happy to give the plug for that. So also boost your listenership early with paid ads. So YouTube is a great way to boost your listenership of your initial episodes because especially when you're starting out, people are going to go look on YouTube. It's the number one search engine out there, and they're going to see what you've got already. So if you've got your podcast on YouTube, send some paid ads to that. It's not very expensive, and build up your viewership. That's going to help you roll and get new listeners. It's going to help you get new guests. Do that early on. And then release a minimum of one a week. If you don't have the commitment yet to do at least one podcast a week, it's going to be really hard to build regular listeners. Because think about a TV show or a radio show or even another podcast. If it's only out, I don't know, once a month, twice a month, you're probably going to forget to listen to it in today's media saturated age. So at least once a week. And then figure out some metric that will show you how it's going to pay for itself and then track that. And, podcasts really have a lot of different ways that they can provide benefit to the brand. You just need to pick what your metric is and track it.
That's very, that's like great advice. I think like that was a lot of the stuff that, we had to sort of go through as well when we were starting our podcast. And I wanted to ask you this question because I have talk to a lot of people who use podcasting or have discovered podcasting as a means to do lead generation.
Mhm.
And they added to like as part of a sales funnel.
Yes.
Um, and I wanted to hear your opinion on, having that sort of be the purpose of hosting a podcast. Do you
Yeah.
think it works? Because I've had people who I've spoken to that immediately we reach out to them like, "Hey, do you want to be on the show?" They sometimes they are not keen to be on it because they think that it's part of a sales strategy,
Yeah.
or if it's part of a funnel and they're like, "I don't wanna do that." Like, no.
Mhm.
And we have to explain like, "No, it's not. We're not trying to do a sale," or, it's "We're doing it for this purpose, it's blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah." And it makes me wonder, like, does it actually work to get sales? Because I feel like people are very not interested in it when it feels like
Yeah.
it's salesy.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. First of all, I would say it depends upon which way you're selling. So for me, the essence of selling, and especially the essence of marketing, is providing value. And a podcast is an easy way to give a potential lead value right up front with no strings attached. Hey, we'd love to promote you, let you talk about what you do best, what you're passionate about, and get you out there, make you look good. So it's providing value right up front for that person. Now, because of that, you have now a relationship with that person. It's not a cold outreach. So if you reach out to them and they really are a good fit and you can continue to provide value through whatever your product or service is, it's going to be a natural. The biggest problem that most sales and marketing people have is when they're trying to do cold outreach, nobody wants to be sold to. Nobody wants
Yeah.
cold outreach. But when it's somebody you know, when it's someone you have a relationship who's provided value for you already, of course you want to give back. You want to listen to them. And if it is a good fit, then great. You'll move forward. And if it isn't a good fit, then no strings attached. So I really feel like in previous roles, it has been very valuable. It's been valuable for first account-based marketing. So account-based marketing is like maybe this particular company would be good using your product or your service, but perhaps you can't get a hold of everybody who might be influencing the sale. However, you can at least put your best foot forward for all those people around your decision maker. You can invite some of them onto the podcast. They have valuable experience, and now they at least know you. They know what your brand is, and they have a relationship with a real person, who helped them look good and share their expertise. And so that is going to give you a foot up in any kind of sales situation. It will not sell your product. So your product still has to be a good match for them. But what it does is it creates relationships. And that's the foundation of people would rather be sold to by somebody who they like and who provided value for them.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like, I think I was talking to someone about this earlier, where it's like, if you still need to have a good service, a good product for someone to want to buy it. But the reality is that if you have a good relationship with the person selling it to you, or you have some sort of connection, or you feel like the brand speaks to you in a way, you're more inclined
Mhm.
to at least check it out a little bit more than the rest.
Yeah.
It might win a little bit more from the competition, and then it's all up to having like what you're offering needs to be good.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. And it's not just about the sales, the fact that you have a relationship with them now. If they are your target market and you're bringing them onto your podcast as guests, you are going to learn what's really important to them. And every salesperson, every marketer really wants to know that. They want to know, what does this person care about? What are their problems that they're trying to solve? How are they solving them? And you learn those things in a podcast conversation. So really it's market research. All of us have to buy products and services. And sometimes those products and services really help us. But we'd really rather not have general spray and pray advertising and sales outreach. We'd much rather have it be targeted. So the only people who reach out to us are things we really like. Imagine if every email that came into your inbox was only people who were selling you something that you really wanted to buy anyways. And you're like, this is the greatest thing ever.
gotta be poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like, and with the way that like email marketing happens nowadays, and like and just e-commerce in general, if every email that I had was stuff that I wanted and like
Mhm.
really great offers, oh, I would just have my credit card on all day long.
No, but you'd
Yeah.
have less emails too. You'd be like, all right, these are only the ones that I want, because there's only so much that you want. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
you
true.
get rid of
That
all that
get
spam.
oversaturated, because there's like I think there's stuff that you want that you're like, "Ah, I don't need it." And then you sort of can be a little bit more picky, so you're gonna pick the
Yeah.
best out of all of that. Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you one other cool thing about podcasts that your listeners may not have known. It also creates a sense of community among those who are your guests. So we would often have previous guests come on as a panel. We'd say, hey, 3 or 4 of you, could you come on and discuss this topic? And that would connect them with our other podcast guests. And especially at high levels in business, you really value connections within your industry. When somebody connects you with somebody really good, you're like, oh, wow, I'm glad that you introduced me to this person. And you can do that as a podcast by bringing on your various guests and connecting them together.
Yeah, it's true. I think like connecting a lot of people together is great. I think it's a nightmare when it comes to scheduling. I
Yes.
think learning to schedule is really hard because people are busy. They have busy schedules, and connecting one person to another is very
Yeah.
hard. But it's really great. I mean, on these live events that we do on Friday, shameless promo, 1 p.m. EST, tune in to Penji social media. We like to sometimes bring people from sort of different places, right? Like we'll have
Mhm.
a person from one company and then this person from other company, and then we'll bring a topic and try to have a discussion on it and see,
Mhm.
have like something cool. And it's a great time. Like when we're filming, it's great and it's very productive when it comes to conversation,
Mm.
but it's really hard to schedule because
Yeah.
people are so busy. So it's not something that you can do like all the time, but when you do it, I always feel like it's really worth it because you
Yeah.
have the best discussions when you have different minds sort of coming in together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one way to make that easier on scheduling is sometimes the person themselves won't be able to go, but maybe they've got a business partner or one of their staff who they know is knowledgeable about that particular subject. And they say, hey, you can tell them, you can have somebody else come for you. And I think one of the issues with podcast outreach is sometimes we try to go for, the CEOs and the very top level leaders, and they are really busy. But sometimes those mid-level people have just as much experience and have more open schedules. And guess what? At some point, they're going to be the CEOs.
Yeah, and like a lot of times those mid-level people, like, I think people forget that the CEO needs help, like, the CEO is not sitting down every day at his office doing everything. He's
Mhm.
not up to date with everything that's happening, and sometimes, that creative director can really give you some great advice on being a creative director if
Mhm.
that is something that you wanted to do, or, like, on what the branding of the company is, or whatever it is that you wanted to ask that person. I think it can get overlooked sometimes, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jonathan, I think that's a great note to end the podcast on because we are unfortunately running out of time. But I do want to give you the space to plug anything that you want to plug. And if anything resonated with anybody listening today and they would like to talk to you, connect with you, work with you, the space is yours.
Yeah. So people can find me on LinkedIn, just linkedin.com/in/Ames Creative, AMES Creative. And you can go to amescreative.com as my website. Either of those. If you have questions about podcasts, you just want to bounce around marketing ideas, I love to talk. I actually have my own podcast called Unbreak Marketing. And so I just bring people on and we talk marketing stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I will be adding all of those links to the description of this call. And everybody watching, go ahead and click that description and they can find you there.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I really appreciate you having me on. It was a great time.
Thank you so much for being here. It was a great time having you today. Everybody else, I will see you on the next episode. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
Have a great day, everyone.